I'm Christopher with Health and Fitness The Truth.
I am Kaela.
With? I know you're with
so many things. Drive Personal Performance Center and Transformation Nutrition and Training. So I'm a trainer and a nutrition specialist.
Better than a nutrition specialist, because you can get a nutrition specialist or a nutritionist just about anywhere. She went to school specifically for this.
I did. So I just graduated about a year ago as a registered dietitian from the University of Utah.
Cool. And today what we want to be talking about is eating clean. There is so much noise out there about how you should be eating. And there's a ton of noise. It's especially obnoxious because all of it's coming from experts. Right? There's a doctor that comes out with a book that's like, you have to eat this way, right? And then there's another doctor that comes out with a book and it is the complete opposite message. There's always another fitness guru and health expert that's given us the new thing to do. In my opinion, that drives us away from the center point, which is eating clean. I really think that your good health starts with clean eating.
I agree with you 100%, Christopher. In my experience, there's, these programs that you speak of all the time. We get asked as trainers, how do you feel about this diet? How do you feel about that diet? And there's so many out there. How do you know what one is right? Keto is a big one right now. The Atkins diet, the paleo diet, intermittent fasting. There's so many different things out there that people are trying, and it's not that these things don't work for some as far as weight loss goes, but what are the long-term side effects from that? And how can anyone lose weight in a healthy way? We're gonna talk about that today with clean eating.
So if people come to you and ask, what is meant by clean eating, Kaela, how do you respond?
My response is staying away from processed foods and eating a well-balanced diet. Most of the time, people have this misconception of what clean eating is. And I hear things like, oh, I ate bad. I don't like to put things in good or bad categories, right? Food is food. There are foods that are going to feed your body and nourish your body and give you the things that it needs. And then there are those that are going to do the opposite and get you further away from your goal. Those things are processed foods, things that come in packages. If you can't read some of the ingredients, it's obviously not a fresh, raw food. So trying to get back to the basics, fruits, vegetables, grains, lean sources of protein, that's what we need to be focused on. Not, cookies, pastries, fast food, protein bars, for example. Most of them are super high in sugar, overly processed. They do a lot of things to your gut health long term. Even some of these other options at fast food places that are trying to go healthy, you see things like yogurt parfaits or something like that, which is just super high in sugar. So I think that educating people about what eating clean really means versus what they think it means is huge.
Oftentimes, the thing with the most calories on the menu is the salad.
Yes.
It's because they dump so much salad dressing on that salad dressing.
And cheeses, yes.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, you might think you're ordering something healthy, but there's a lot of processed something that goes into it. So I want to get real specific about what we mean when we say processed and refined foods. If we look at all of our options for food, just zoom out and say we've got macronutrients, we've got carbohydrates and proteins and fats. As those things occur in nature, they tend to come with vitamins and minerals and fiber. And basically what you're doing when you process or refine something is you strip the macronutrients of the fiber and the micronutrients. So I want to give some specific examples of what we mean. So
yes.
What do you know about the process of refining grain?
Let's talk wheat.
Let's talk about wheat.
Let's talk about wheat. Wheat belly, I'm sure you've heard of the book. If you haven't, it's all over the place right now. Gluten.
Grain is Evil Bible.
Yes. Basically, in a gist, here's what it is. What's happening during that process is they are stripping that grain of all of the important stuff, like the fiber, okay, and vitamins and minerals that your body needs to work correctly. So things like white bread, enriched white flour, things like that have been completely stripped away. So when your trainer says eat whole wheat bread versus, Sara Lee white bread, that's what they mean, and that is why. Added sugars. So there's so many different artificial sweeteners out there now, and everybody's got an opinion about, don't use artificial sweeteners, so everyone's back to raw sugar again, or, cellulose, or maltodextrin, or xylitol. A lot of these have a bad effect on your gut. So if you've ever noticed using things that have sugar alcohols in them, they're really hard for your body to digest. So you think you're eating less sugar, this must be good for me, but it's super, super processed. So instead I would say, you're better off with like a fresh pear or a piece of fruit than, that sugar-free candy bar that you're grabbing.
Yeah.
It's the same as, fat-free products. When you're looking at things that are fat-free, it's usually got a ton of added sugar. More recently, it's got a ton of sugar alcohols, which in my opinion is even worse. How do you feel about that?
My mom raised me on fat-free food. Bless her soul, she was just doing the best she could. She's a layperson, not a expert in nutrition or anything, but that was what was being fed the general population. That
it was a big craze.
Fat was bad for you, so we were gonna get rid of fat and everything, and since that kills the flavor, we're gonna dump a bunch of processed sugar into it. I wanna get real specific about the processing.
Okay.
You grow some wheat. There it is a plant. It is as whole as can be, right?
Yes.
The difference between that plant and what is in your white bread follows this trajectory, essentially. So you've got this plant that gets harvested. The grain of wheat that is edible has to be pulled away from the plant, has to have this hull. It's basically a completely undigestible piece of tree bark, okay, that surrounds the grain. Exactly, husk, okay? You gotta get that off. And then this grain of wheat, or of any kind of grain that you're looking at, okay, it has a bran outer shell, and inside that bran outer shell is the endosperm and the germ, okay? And when you're refining a grain or processing it, you are stripping away the bran and the germ, both of which have the majority of the B vitamins and trace minerals, and the fiber goes out the door with the bran. And so what you're left with is just the endosperm, which is pretty much pure carbohydrate and a little bit of B vitamins. And that's what you've got. And what's funny is they put it on a conveyor belt and they literally spray vitamins and minerals onto it, and then they call it enriched.
Yes.
Or fortified.
Yes.
Well, that drives me nuts, because like you don't take a stone wall away from around your fortress and then replace it with a cute white vinyl fence and declare your fortress thereby fortified, right? And it's the same thing with what you're eating. You don't strip away all the natural goodness that came with that carbohydrate in its natural package and then spray makeshift vitamins on there and call it fortified.
Right.
You cheapened, you decreased the quality of that fuel for your body.
Exactly. Let's go there for a second too. I just want to add to that.
Yeah.
When we're talking about fortified or enriched foods, you'll see this all the time. If you don't read labels, please start reading your labels. You'll see these words all the time. Quick example would be like a breakfast cereal. Fortified cereals, high in vitamins, that's their slogan. Now, your body is not going to absorb the sprayed on vitamins that you're talking about as well as it would from its natural source, okay? So that whole process of stripping everything good away, that's what we want. We want all of that stuff in our bodies, okay? B vitamins are where you're gonna get all of your energy from, along with many other things. And if you're looking to lose weight, fiber is a very important part of that.
The fiber content being missing in refined carbohydrates and refined grains is the biggest factor in driving your blood sugar high and in driving all the problems of overeating those kinds of carbohydrates, because when the fiber doesn't come with it, you will eat more of it. Fiber sends your brain a signal that you're getting full.
Exactly.
Okay?
So let's talk about that, Christopher. Let me ask you, actually.
Okay.
So if I was to eat a whole grain piece of toast with some avocado on it versus, I don't know, a Snickers bar, tell me what's happening in my body differently, because I know that a lot of people are busy, right? We're a go society. I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. I hear that constantly all day long, and you know, noon rolls around and you reach for that candy bar or that cup of coffee because you want that quick sugar fix. So can you explain to our viewers why that happens?
First of all, I've got to bust that myth that any of you might have that I don't have time, so I'm gonna grab a Snickers bar. Because if you had time to walk into that grocery store, you had time to pick up a piece of fruit. It was this perfect little packaged thing that will serve your body with good health.
Yes. Yes.
What's happening is if you've got a Snickers bar, you've got a bunch of refined sugar in there.
Yes.
And after I describe this, I want to describe exactly how sugar gets processed as well. That sugar is going to get metabolized super fast, okay? Whereas with a whole grain, if you're digesting fiber with your carbohydrate, it will get digested a lot slower. And that will...
This is going to make me feel full longer, right?
It will make you feel full longer, and it will also decrease your insulin response.
Yes.
Right? If you're metabolizing sugars or carbohydrates, which break down into sugars, if you're metabolizing that super fast, then your body has to produce a bunch of insulin and shoot it into your bloodstream, because insulin's job is to pick up that blood sugar and shuttle it to where it's going to be used or stored, right? And so if you're over-consuming these refined carbohydrates, if you're doing that consistently over time, then you're giving yourself this constant insulin shot, essentially, until your pancreas is like, I quit, and you have diabetes. And then you have to give yourself an insulin shot, literally. So, sugar. Sugar is funny because it's also a refined carbohydrate. When we're looking at grains, what we're talking about when we're talking about refining or processing them is we're talking about stripping that outer shell of bran and taking that the germ rather, out of the endosperm, so you're just left with almost pure carbohydrate. When we're talking about refining sugar, what we're talking about is taking, again, a plant, sugar beets or sugar cane or corn, and you clean it and you boil the heck out of it, okay? And then you separate the plant matter from around the sugar that is contained in there, okay? And they call it purified, which is another misnomer. It's just as bad a misnomer as is fortified, because if you purify something, you remove impurities in order to enjoy something in a higher quality state. But with sugar, that's not what you're doing. That plant matter that came with the sugar, that was not undesirable impurities, right? That was, again, the fiber and the vitamins and minerals that came with the macronutrient there of the carbohydrate. You pull the sugar out in concentrated form, and you've done exactly the same thing. You've created a product that, when consumed, is metabolized a ton faster. You will eat more of it because you won't get the signal that you're getting full, and it will drive your insulin response sky high. And the problems here are, of course, risk of diabetes, metabolic syndrome, heart disease, etc. All the things we're trying to avoid.
Right, mood, anxiety disorders.
Yeah,
it's all very, very true. For you guys at home watching, all of this is, you know, the science behind it, which is, you know, what we do for a living, so we're super into it. For you guys, though, to keep it simple, be aware of the basics of things. Look for things that don't say fortified or refined. Read your labels. Look for things that are raw food sources. Look for whole grains. Look for things that don't have a bunch of additives in it. And you know, try to keep a colorful plate. Look at what you're eating before you put it in your mouth. Really being aware of those things will help you get to where you want to be. I get asked all the time, you know, what if I mess up? Oh, I already screwed up my diet. Here we go. I might as well just call it quits. How many people have done that? It's the new year. It's happening all over the world right now. It's about being aware. So if you do indulge in something, sit down, taste it, enjoy it, and do it in moderation. Don't beat yourself up about it. You know, don't have the whole bag. That's the key, is if you allow yourself to be rewarded occasionally, you won't have those cravings, those binge episodes where you're just going all in on a diet and then throwing it away the next day, because that can create a whole nother bout of things that we don't want to look to.
I want to bring up one of my other pet peeves. We talked a lot about refined carbohydrates. Okay. What about refined fats?
Yes.
Trans fat or hydrogenated oils, okay? That's something that you'll find in a ton of things as well. And basically what's happening is that they've chemically changed the structure of a room temperature liquid fat so that it works differently with your body. It also causes things to be able to store longer, right? And so the pet peeve that I'm talking about is peanut butter. I love peanut butter, but if you turn your peanut butter jar upside down and nothing comes out, you're eating peanut flavored Crisco, my friend.
Yes, yes.
And so I want you to look at your peanut butter, read the label, like Kaela was saying, right? If the first ingredient is peanuts, and the second ingredient is sugar, and the third ingredient is hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oil, please stop buying that. Do the real thing. It should just say peanuts and salt, maybe, okay?
Yep, a little bit of salt and some oils of some sort, but yes,
you have to stir it, but it's so worth it, especially if you love peanut butter and you're eating it often, okay?
Yes.
Otherwise, again, peanut flavored Crisco, guys.
Exactly. Coffee creamer is a big one, and it's one of those things that is something that people don't think. Like, let's say you're keeping a food log. I have all of my clients keep me food logs, and I always ask for very specific things. And they're like, coffee. Okay, well, what did you put in your coffee? Oh, just a little bit of creamer. How much creamer? Because 1 tablespoon of Coffee Mate, which I believe the second ingredient is hydrogenated oil of some sort, 35 calories per tablespoon, 5 grams of fat, tons of sugar. You're looking at 5 grams of carbohydrates, 5 grams of sugar, and 1 tablespoon. I don't know anyone that uses 1 tablespoon of creamer in their coffee. So it's the little things too. So be aware and be cautious of that. Read your labels, like Christopher said.
Like you said it first.
Yes.
We started this out and we mentioned a lot of different diets that are popular, and there's a ton. All of them are claiming, right, that if you follow this, no matter how you failed before, this is going to work for you. And of course, they've got a bunch of people who testify to that, right?
Yes.
The issue isn't the diet platform they followed. The issue is the fact that they went at that diet platform which probably mandated clean eating, and they did it consistently, and they did it with some measure of intensity, okay?
Yes.
And so, friends, it's not that keto is the way to go. Keto mandates clean eating. It's not that paleo is the way to go, that mandates clean eating. It's not that vegan is the way to go necessarily, right? If you're doing veganism right, you are doing it clean. Intermittent fasting, if you're doing that properly, you are doing it clean. Whatever the platform you're on that you find works for you, if it's working, it's because it's clean eating, okay? So we've been told it's about all these different things. We've been told it's about, eating like our ancestors ate 10,000 years ago.
Yes.
We've been told it's got to be less sugar, it's got to be less one thing or another. What it has to be above all else is clean eating, and I really believe that your good health begins there.
It does, and thank you for giving some background on the science behind it all, because that's really what it comes down to.
I'm that guy that does that boring research. And
I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kaela.